viewers, in my previous lecture, I had discussed with you what is mutarotation and how does the phenomena of mutarotation support that the glucose molecule exists in two forms, that is alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. And we found that mutarotation is the process in which specific rotation of the molecule changes on keeping with time. That is, when we dissolved alpha D glucose in water, its initial specific rotation was 112 degrees, but it's gradually decreased to a value of 52.7. Similarly, when beta D glucose was dissolved in water, its specific rotation changed, or it increased from 18.7 to a constant value of 52.7. So why does this happen? Because gradually alpha D glucose changes into beta D glucose through open chain structure till an equilibrium is attained. Similarly, beta D glucose changes into alpha D glucose through open chain structure till an equilibrium is obtained. Now the question arises, will the specific rotation change once the equilibrium is attained? So what do you think? Will it change? It is very obvious that it will not change. Why will it not change? It will not change because at the equilibrium, the amount of alpha form changing into beta or vice versa, that is beta changing into alpha, will be same. So there will be no net rotation. That means the net rotation at that position will be constant, because the amount of alpha form changing into beta or vice versa will be same. Now, as we know that at equilibrium position we have 64% of beta D glucose, 36% of alpha D glucose, and the very small amount of open chain structure is present, that is 0.02%. So the question is, now if you see on your screens, we find that we have alpha D glucose, and as I have said that this alpha D glucose will change into beta D glucose, or beta D glucose will change into alpha D glucose through this open chain structure. And at the position of equilibrium, at the state of equilibrium, the concentration of alpha D glucose is 36%, that of beta D glucose is 64%, and the open chain structure is present in very small amount, that is 0.02%. So what we find here, that the concentration of beta D glucose is almost as double as alpha D glucose, and the open chain form is negligible. That means the alpha forms and beta forms are more stable as compared to open chain structure, and open chain structure is only being formed when the one form is changing into the other. And because the alpha form is present, then we can also say that the glucose molecule was showing us some properties which were characteristic of aldehyde group. It was showing those properties because in the mixture we have alpha form, the open chain structure also, and it has an aldehyde group, because of which this molecule will show us the properties of the aldehyde group also. And we know, you can ask yourselves a question now, that why does this, in spite of alpha D glucose being present and beta D glucose being present, it is showing us the properties of an aldehydic form? The reason being that when we are carrying out the reaction and the reagent is reacting with the open chain structure, the equilibrium will be disturbed. So what will happen? More of alpha or more of beta will change into the open chain structure, and this molecule will then give us the properties for the aldehyde group, that indicating that glucose has an aldehyde group. But most of the time, in the equilibrium mixture, we have larger content or larger concentration of alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. Now the question arises as to why beta D glucose is present in larger quantities. So as we did in our previously, and I'll explain here again, that when we look into the structure of beta D glucose, we find that the OH group at the anomeric carbon is at equatorial position. So when it is at equatorial position, what we find that hydrogens are placed at axial positions, and when hydrogens are placed at axial position, they will occupy less space, and therefore there will be less steric hindrance here. So this is the difference between the, whereas when we talk of the alpha form, in alpha form this OH will be present at the axial position. So when it is present at the axial position, it will experience some steric repulsions, and because of that steric repulsion, the alpha form is present in less amount in the reaction mixture, in the equilibrium mixture. Now I will quickly revise as to why are we calling it beta. Beta because the OH is on the equatorial position. D because the OH at the highest numbered carbon will be on the right hand side in the open chain structure. This D indicates that the molecule is dextrorotatory. Gluco indicates that the molecule is that of glucose, and pyranose indicates that the basic ring structure is that of heterocycle pyrene. So therefore, and now we can explain that since in alpha D glucose we were comparing the stability of the alpha D glucose and beta D glucose, in alpha D glucose the OH group at the C1 carbon, that is the anomeric carbon, is at axial position, and due to which there will be some steric strain between the C1 and the C2, that is the hydroxyl groups at the C1 carbon at the C2 carbon. Therefore, we find that alpha D glucose is less stable as compared to beta D glucose, and it is only because of this reason that beta D glucose predominates in the equilibrium mixture, that is its amount is 64%, whereas that of alpha D glucose is 36%, and the open chain structure is present in very small amounts. So now the question is that how does mutarotation occur? We know that the hydroxyl group, how do the two anomers differ? They differ because the position of the hydroxyl group at C1 is different. In alpha form, it is on the right hand side if we are talking of the Fischer's projection, and in beta form it is on the left hand side. And when we dissolve either the alpha form or the beta form in water, water acts as a catalyst and the ring opening takes place. Because of this ring opening, the alpha D form or the beta D form will change into the open chain structure, and in this open chain structure again a ring closure will take place, resulting in formation either of alpha or the beta forms. So we can say now that mutarotation occurs because the hydroxyl group at the anomeric carbon switches positions between the alpha form and the beta form. So here you can look on your screens, and I've tried to explain the mechanism also, that this is the open chain form of glucose, and here this OH will react with the aldehyde group to give us the two anomers, that is the alpha and the beta forms of glucose. Now what happens? Now if we have the beta D glucopyranose which is present in 64%, and here again I have shown you the chair conformation because this is more appropriate representation, because in this we can look into the stereochemistry at the each chiral carbon, and we can also look at the conformation or rather the stability of a particular anomer. So what we find that the mechanism is not very clear, but it has been proposed that since we dissolve it in water and water is amphoteric in nature, simultaneously an acid base reaction takes place, that is this anomeric oxygen, this oxygen, the ring oxygen, picks up a proton from water and is converted into a OH group. And at the same time, OH group of water acts as a base through the lone pair of oxygens, and it picks up a proton from here, as a result of which the bond between O and H collapses here, resulting in a double bond. So now the ring opening has taken place. Now what we find that in this case, at this position, the rotation is free. So what happens is this rotates here at 180 degrees and the orientation of this group will change, right? So when the orientation changes, or we can say this will react from here, this will now this will attack from here, and when it attacks from here, the orientation will change. We will get this orientation here. In this case, the carbonyl group was facing OH. In this case, the carbonyl group is away from OH. This now OH at the fifth carbon will make a bond from here, and again the reaction will be catalyzed by water, resulting in the formation of alpha D glucopyranose, which is 36%, and this mechanism can be vice versa also. So now we know how glucose, the alpha form will change into beta form and the beta form will change into alpha form, and this explains that the glucose has a ring structure, because when we dissolve one form, it will dissolve in water, it will open up, and then the ring closing will take place, and it can result in the formation of the beta form or the alpha form till an equilibrium is obtained. So this explains that that glucose has a ring structure and it exists in two forms, that is alpha form and the beta form. Now the question arises, will all sugar show mutarotation? Then your answer has to be that it is only a reducing sugar which will show mutarotation, and it will only show mutarotation if it will exist in two cyclic forms, because these two cyclic forms on dissolving in water will interconvert through open chain structure till an equilibrium mixture is obtained, and we get a specific rotation for that equilibrium mixture. So now that means this was explaining the phenomena. I have explained the phenomena of mutarotation. In my previous lecture I explained what is mutarotation. In this I have explained why is beta form existing in as a major constituent, and then how does the change of alpha form into beta form or vice versa take place in aqueous medium. Now the next question arises that when glucose reacts with methanol, it gives us only one acetal. That is, one acetal means it gives us isomeric acetals. That is, in this case we are getting two isomeric acetals, that is alpha methyl glucoside if we are treating glucose with methanol, or beta methyl glucoside. Why is this the case? Whereas when we talk of a reaction of an aldehyde with alcohol, what we find that both the acetyl groups are attached to the same carbon. This is not happening here. We are getting one acetyl, we are getting one glycosidic bond here. So this formation of two methyl glucosides when a molecule of glucose is treated with methanol strongly supports that glucose exists in two cyclic forms, and the two cyclic forms exist in form of hemiacetal. So now we say that when we treat this cyclic hemiacetal with methanol or with any other alcohol under acidic conditions, two acetals are formed, that is alpha D glycoside or beta D glycoside. Glycoside is the general term. So when we are talking in case of glucose, we will call it glucoside, right? And we say that the acetal of sugar is known, the general name for the acetal of sugar is glycoside. So what are these glycosides now? I'll just briefly introduce you to them, and then we'll go on to our discussion, that is the formation of glucosides from a reaction of glucose with an alcohol. These are special type of acetals. Why am I saying they are special type of acetals? Because in this, the two acetyl groups are not attached to the same carbon. What happens in this case is, in which one of the oxygens of the acetyl linkage is the ring oxygen of the pyranose ring. So what we find that this oxygen is the part of the acetyl ring. So this is how it is different from the acetal of a normal aldehyde, and this COR, this bond, is known as the glycosidic bond. So now we can ask, what is an glycosidic bond? So you will say a glycosidic bond is the bond between the anomeric carbon and the alkoxy oxygen. That is, the alkoxy oxygen means that the oxygen of the alcohol, and it is called as a glycosidic bond. And now how do we name these glycosides? Glycosides are named by replacing the E ending of the sugar with the name IDE. So that means for glucose, the name of the glycoside would become glucoside. If we talk of mannose, it will become mannoside. If we talk of fructose, it will become fructoside. So when the word ID is attached at the end, what you have to remember, that we are talking of an acetal of a monosaccharide. Right? Now we see that, coming back to our discussion on glucose, that when a single enomer of a glucose reacts with an alcohol, it will form both the glucosides, that is alpha glucoside and the beta glucoside. So as you can see on your screens here, I have taken the structure of D-glucose, and it has not been specified here the stereochemistry. So when you write a OH here with a wavy bond, it indicates that this glucose may be alpha D-glucose or it may be beta D-glucose. And as I said, that either forms of glucose, which may be alpha D-glucose or which may be a beta D-glucose, it will react with methanol in presence of HCl. That is, it will react with one molecule of methanol to give us this form, which is this. Now see, the OCH3 group is at the bottom, so it should immediately come to your mind that this is the alpha form. So this is methyl alpha D glucopyranoside, whereas here it is at the equatorial position, here it was at the axial position. So when the OCH3 group is at the equatorial position, that means this is the beta form, and the name is methyl because this is your glycosidic, this is the alcohol which is coming from methanol, methyl beta D gluco, because it's a pyranoside, or it is a acetal of glucose, and pyranoside because it is existing in the form of pyrene, and Y-ite because it is a glycoside. So as you can see, again the physical properties here will be different. And now since this anomeric carbon OH is not present here in the glucosides, therefore this molecule will not show you the phenomena of beta-rotation, which I said in the beginning in my previous lecture, that this will not show the phenomena of beta-rotation because these groups are stable in basic medium. They will not undergo ring opening. They will not give you test with Felling's test. They will not give you Tollens test. They will not give us Benedict's test. So this again explains that glucose is existing as a cyclic structure. Now I would like to explain the mechanism of this reaction and show how both the glucosides are formed by taking an example of reaction of glucose with the ethanol. And in this case, as you can see, that the OH group is present at the equatorial position. So it will immediately come to your mind that this is an example of beta D glucose. So when we treat beta D glucose with ethanol, we will get ethyl beta D glucoside as well as ethyl alpha D glucoside. So we will get these two glucosides. So you have to now remember this is at equatorial position. So this is the alpha form, and since this group, ethoxy group here, is at the axial position, so this is the alpha form, and this which is at the equatorial position is the beta form. And this of course was the beta form of glucose because the OH is at the equatorial position. Now what happens during this? I'll just go back to the previous ring. That first of all, this OH will react with HCl, and the lone pair of electrons will react with this, and it will be converted into a OH2 group. That is, O will have a positive, that is, this group will be protonated. And now when this is protonated, what will happen? The lone pair of electrons on oxygen will help to expel the water molecule, right? And when the water molecule is expelled, we will get a oxocarbonium ion. And now since this oxocarbonium ion will be sp2 hybridized, so the part at that part it will be planar. So what will happen, that this is planar in structure, so alcohol will now be able to attack this carbenium ion either from the front, from the top, or from the bottom. But now let us see the mechanism with help of the pictures or with help of the reactions on your screens. That in first step what is happening, the lone pair of electrons on oxygen are acting as a base, and this picks up a proton from the acid, that is HCl, and this molecule, this group is protonated. The question is, why is there the need to protonate this OH group? You know that OH group is a strong base, and that means if it's a strong base, it is a poor leaving group. So this reaction is not possible. That is, if we do not carry out the reaction in presence of HCl, the reaction is not possible. So first step is the protonation of this OH, so that we convert this OH into H2O, and now this H2O becomes a better leaving group. It will be eliminated. This OH, becomes a better leaving group, and it will be eliminated as water molecule. Now when this goes as a water molecule, you know that you can see that here oxygen has a positive charge. So obviously oxygen will take this bonding pair of electrons with it and will be eliminated as of water. Now what happens as a result of this? This carbon will have a positive charge. Now since this carbon has a positive charge, the lone pair of electrons on oxygen will form a bond between this carbon, and it will stabilize the positive charge. So as a result of this, what you'll find, that the positive charge is spread over two atoms, that is at this carbon and this oxygen, and this is stabilized. So that is the reason why OH from this position is eliminated as water molecule. And this you have to be very clear that here this is being stabilized due to neighboring group participation. Don't confuse it with resonance. Resonance takes place when there is conjugation, right? Here what is happening is that we are having neighboring group participation, which also I have discussed in one of my previous lectures, that is the neighboring group participation in nucleophilic substitution reactions. So here also neighboring group participation is taking place, and this is as a result of which this carbonium ion is stabilized, and what we get here is this. It is stabilized because the positive charge we will have here, that stage I have not shown, and because of this neighboring group participation, that is because of the lone pair of electrons on oxygen will make a bond here, the positive charge will be spread over this carbon as well as this oxygen. Now what happens in the next stage? you see that in next stage, since it is having this is carbon is sp2 hybridized, now the possibility is that this ethanol can come and make a bond here from the top, or it can make a bond from the bottom. So we have both the choices here. So in case it makes a bond from the top, you will get a beta form, because here, where is this group? It is at the equatorial position. And if it attacks from the lower part, you will get a alpha form, right? But here what we find, that this oxygen still has a positive charge on it. And you know, when the oxygen has a positive charge on it, that molecule is not very stable. So what will happen again in an acid-base reaction? OH will abstract a proton from here, and when a proton from here is removed, the bonding pair of electrons will collapse on this oxygen, and we will get a beta glucoside, or we can also get an alpha. This will give us an alpha glucoside. In this case, what you can see, that the major product that is being formed is alpha glucoside. As to why is this alpha glucoside being formed, it can be explained on the basis of anomeric effect, and I'll be dealing with the anomeric effect in my subsequent lecture. Now the question is that despite having so many hydroxyl groups, why is it that only the anomeric OH group is replaced? This I have already explained, that when a carbocation is formed at the anomeric position, then that carbocation is stabilized by lone pair of electrons on ring oxygen, and that is why it is the only one which is being capable of being formed during this reaction. So as I've shown here, only this carbocation, if we remove this water, this carbocation is the only one which will be stabilized by lone pair of electrons on this oxygen. Rest of them cannot be stabilized. So that is the reason why only the OH is removed. Now we have to see that how does formation of two D-glucopyranosides support the cyclic structure of glucose. I'll just take a minute and wind up then, that when we carry out the reaction of aldehyde with alcohol, say let me say methanol. So what we find, that first it reacts with one molecule of methanol, and then it reacts with second molecule of methanol to give us a acetal. Right, first we are getting a hemiacetal, then we are getting a acetal. Whereas when we talk of glucose, then we know that glucose is using only one molecule of alcohol, that is one molecule of methanol, that is we are introducing one methoxy group here. That clearly shows that glucose is existing in cyclic form, which is the hemiacetal form. Now, so that means this difference between aldoses and the ordinary aldehydes, that is, an ordinary aldehyde will react with two molecules of alcohol to give us an acetal, and aldose will react with one molecule to give us an acetal, led the earlier chemists to believe that aldoses exist as cyclic hemiacetals. So all these reactions are clearly proving, all these facts are clearly proving that glucose has a cyclic structure, and it exists as alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. For this lecture, you can go through these references, that is books by Cary Francis, McMurray Joan, Waite, Claydon and Solomon. Thank you.